Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all my blessed beloveds out there in video land. You're watching Living and Thriving with Rusty. And guess what? I'm Rusty. You will notice behind me that door. It is not a ghost. It's actually two four-legged furries that feel compelled to have my attention every second of every waking moment and even sleeping moments. My dogs are very jealous of you and your time. So they keep popping the door open. And if you notice there's no handle on the door because when we moved into this house, we had a lot of work to do to get it livable, and we're still working on it. And the door handle had some parts missing. So in between everything else that I do, I have little maintenance projects. And as a single mom, there's only so much time in the day. I don't have anybody knocking on the door saying, hey, I got a tool bag. I'm coming over to help you do your garage in 110-degree weather. Yeah. And if you do have a tool bag and you happen to be local, I would not say no. Just say, it's really hot and I got to get that garage done. But I have a feeling that's going to be a November project because it's sticky. Today's doTERRA oil is breathe on so many levels. It's a very important oil to have in your pocket. And so I recommend it, especially right now. It's very polleny and gross and yucky out, and you can hear I'm still a little stuffed. So I use my doTERRA Breathe to kind of open up those places and spaces so that I don't sound like a Muppet. Today I have Dawn Todd on. She just joined us and she's cute as a button.
How are you?
You know, if I were to complain, I would expect to be shot at this point. I live on the west coast of Florida. I live in perpetual sunshine. I live in the middle of Jurassic Park. There's rainbows every day.
Love it.
What do you complain about? Like, how can you, I mean, I will, my only complaint is they don't have a good Thai restaurant down here.
I love the west coast of Florida. It's so gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
It's like, it's just literally tropical all the time. Are you like south of Bradenton or like
way south? Yeah, way south.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I'm almost in Fort Myers.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, so we're a mile away from the ocean and it's this beautiful emerald green / frosty, you know, it's almost Pirates of the Caribbean romantic. Does it make sense?
I know, it does. I was just there a few months ago visiting a friend who lives in Bradenton and drove all down the coast and was so taken with it. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Lucky you.
You know, it is. And it's so funny because one of my guests is actually in the Caribbean. She's on St. Croix, I think. And I love the Caribbean, but I love it for the same reasons. It's just perpetual happiness. You really have to be a schmuck or on some really bad medication that's not working for you
to not just
miserable.
Right, to not just absorb that. It changes your frequency. It absorbs into your body. It's so beautiful. So
well, just looking out my bedroom window, I have 15 different types of tropical birds, and some of them are huge. You know, you've got flamingos down here. Imagine the size of that. Peacocks. And they'll literally sit on the line of the electric poles. And I'm going, well, there's ravens and some finches, and that's an oriole and flamingo. Huh. It's just very, it's kind of awkward. Like, how do you do that? You're so big.
How do you do that? They're so big, yeah.
Anyway, so Dawn, who are you? What do you do? And what inspires you to be you?
Well, that's a lot of questions.
I know. I'm the question giver.
You are the question giver. Well, you know, my name is Dawn Todd, and I am a feminine business coach. That's probably the label I give myself most often. I'm a mom. I'm a grandma. I've been a coach about 15 years. Before I was a coach, I was a body worker for about 15 years too. So in body work, I worked a lot with folks with head injuries and post-traumatic stress disorder, and I owned a medical massage clinic. And then when I sort of retired from that and stepped into coaching, I really wanted to understand how energy was impacting our business, because I knew I built the clinic that I had was very profitable and successful. And it was really built with these energetic principles that are behind business. And I wanted to really share that with the business world. And that desire and intention has taken me down a path that I probably never could have imagined when I first started, which is really understanding how our business is in our body. So we're all the parts of our business actually are related to how we feel in our body, and creating a system that sort of coordinates that. And then ultimately really understanding how the source of our power, especially for women, is our sensual manifesting power. So really understanding the power of feminine sexuality and sensuality, because that really is the big driver of our life force energy. And yeah, that's my little geeky corner of the universe, is how do we put an energetic experience onto a spreadsheet and then take that to the bank? That's
so reading in between the lines, is this, if you have a lot of sex, your budget will go up?
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
you.
so
I think I'm good. We're gonna have to do this again.
So-
Good topic.
so I'm
Magic.
going to say that it's not about a lot of sex. Okay, it's not about just being like, you know, it's about being intentional and conscious with it, and honestly in sex with yourself too, like cultivating it as a practice, the practice of sexual manifesting. And Napoleon Hill talked about this a lot in Think and Grow Rich, but it was really written for men, you know, back in the day, and he really didn't give us any instructions in that book. You know, he basically just said the famous chapter 11, you know, if this is a thing, you should harness it, blah, blah, blah. But he didn't really say why or how and all of that sort of stuff. And after understanding that, you know, there's really three big power centers in the body, and this lower power center is, if you think of a snowman, which you probably don't have where you live.
I've had them before, though. I went to college in Vermont, so I've had my share. I'm good.
You've had your share of snowmen. So if you think of a snowman, there's three snowballs, right? And the lower snowball is all about our feminine power, it's manifesting power, it's life force energy, it's the legacy that we leave. Money is here, sex is here, soul calling is here, because when a soul fully embodies, it buckles down into the perineum. And in business, it's the product, it's our product or offering. So it's our soul aligned product. And then the middle power center around the chest is asking for what we want, speaking our truth, being authentic, being honest. And in business, it's the sales process. So asking for the sale, not being, you know, like you saw this motion, like a lot of people will sort of collapse over their heart if they have to ask. Oh, I don't want to ask, like, you know, that kind of thing. And then the upper power center is all about our vision, our bigger vision of where we're going, our marketing, reaching a greater audience. And that's like writing a book or things like that. And so Think and Grow Rich was a great book, but it was written for men. And it's sort of a descending flow of energy where he talks about, like, what's your vision? Say it, speak it, say it 100 times, you know, what's the cost of a widget? How many widgets do we have to make? And it's a downward descending energy flow. But for women, in my opinion, I think we have to start at the bottom, and we have to say, what is it that I really love? And would this really nourish me? And is this in alignment with me? And then we'll think about it. Could I put my heart into it? Could I ask for the sale with that? Can I be authentic with that? And then we say, okay, now I know who I want to talk to about it. And so in this upward flow of energy, as women, you could probably see some big problems right away, because 90% of women don't have anything happening below the waist, you know, for many reasons, right? Many reasons. And so in understanding that, really helping women step into power and prosperity is really about saying yes to yourself in a very sensual and sexual way. And
I think, and I'm going to slow it down just a little bit, because there's going to be people that are like, what the
What?
Are you
What
doing
the hell is she talking about?
in business?
Right.
That's taboo. But it's actually not. And it's, and if you want to metaphorically refer to sexual energy as your passion or your inner spark or that fire that gets you all
Right.
juicy and excited.
Life force.
It's that same, I just got goosebumps. It's that same kind of energy that you're putting forth into what you're creating. And for those of us who are creators, artists, writers, lovers, musicians, parents, I mean, I love my kids so much, even though there are days where I could kind of go, but yeah, a teenager, so you get that. That's that energy, that passion, and it's not necessarily sex, but I mean, I think
I'm not talking
energetic.
Right. I'm not talking about the act of sex. I'm talking
that's fantastic. Let's do it.
Let's do more of that. But I'm talking about the energy of sex.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And it's that, like in Chinese medicine, acupuncture, there's a couple kinds of qi or energy that we have. There's congenital qi, which we're born with, and then acquired qi. And so acquired qi is what helps us. We acquire it during our lifetime from food or exercise or, qigong is tai chi, ways of, Reiki even, we're calling energy to us and holding it in the body. So this is a similar idea, except what I'm suggesting is that actually pleasure for women, and it doesn't necessarily mean a toe curling orgasm. It could, but it could also mean I love walking on the beach and it nourishes me so much, but I just don't have time for that. And that doesn't build my business. And who can make a living if you're walking on the beach all the time? But really, that feeling that good and that pleasure nourishes your system so much that your business is built out of that energy.
Right? Well, and let's take it into baby steps. So let's, and I'll try not to have too much fun moving forward, even though this is a great conversation and I could do this all day. Taking it into baby steps. If you're just going to, segment just women in this conversation, which is fine. We'll get back to you dudes in a second, but let's talk about women. Historically, over the last few 100,000, a few years, we'll just say a few years, women have been disempowered and kind of broken down into a very simple form. There was a time period in the Grecian times where we were professors and theologians and an extreme active part of our communities. And we weren't just mothers and just crones, just grandmothers. We had an actual powerful position. And then somewhere in that transition, we became just housewives that had to be meek and quiet. And that's not actually our nature. If anybody's noticed that, it's definitely not my nature. I'm spicy. But it's very difficult in 2021, I think, for women to deprogram that historical stuff that keeps filtering in. I mean, even if you watch the political arena right now, they're still trying to filter some of that domestication of us wild women. And I think the walking on the beach is a great analogy because you need that. That's soul food. That's important. But our mental state of being is, well, we have to do the dishes and we have to do the laundry on top of doing all the bills, on top of going to work 9 to 5, on top of teacher conferences. And I could go on for days because I'm a single mom, so I have to do it all. And I think it's difficult for women to say, I can have 20 minutes to myself. I can have 20 minutes on the beach. I can create, because the pressure is so much different. How do you, as a coach, all of these years, and a body worker, I mean, you've seen PTSD, you've seen trauma, you know exactly what I'm referring to. How do you slowly get women to realize that they're extremely worthy and extremely powerful, and that 20 minutes isn't going to burn dinner? Well, unless you leave it on the stove. And I don't recommend that. That is not right.
Right. And I love your point about saying, we're going to just speak to women right now. And I kind of like to open the door to men too, because I think that right now, men are, my heart really goes out to men on the awakening path, because as women, we've been given a lot of freedom to, I'll say given, but we can talk about these topics. We can wear whatever we want, you know. Men, in some ways, are still sort of stuck in that corporate-ish mindset, even if they're not in corporate. Like, there's a certain way to do things, there's a right and wrong, you don't listen to your intuition, that sort of thing. And I think as more men start listening to their intuition, they will truly discover that speaking to trauma is one of those things that rewires our brain and our body, and it gives us a perspective that's actually not true. And so in working with that, understanding that as you start to track what's happening in your life and business, and start to notice that when I feel good and I think about what I want and I take a positive action, that there is a reaction. Like tracking that, literally tracking your manifesting, and you'll start to discover that, wow, I thought about that 2 days ago and now it showed up. What's going on with that, right? Instead of always saying, you know, I have to make 100 sales calls because that's what my company says. Or, you know, there's a different energetic, easier way to operate that is all about listening to our body and connecting with the greater resources that we have, whether you're a man or a woman. But I'm a woman, I have a lot of daughters, so my conversation tends to be skewed towards girls. So.
Yeah, and I think it's beautiful either way. It's just really, for women, I think it's a little harder to allow ourselves that privilege.
Well, there's a lot of reasons why that's happened for a long time, and truly a woman who is in sovereignty with her sexual power. Sovereignty means that she is deciding what she does with her sexual power without guilt or shame, is the most powerful creature on the planet.
Truth.
And there's a reason why when an invading army goes into a country, one of the first things they do is rape the women. Why is that? It's because it disempowers the whole system, right? Women are the behind the scenes source of power. So moving through that, what we do is simple exercises that first just even considering the possibility that it might be okay to have this conversation with yourself, and then starting to really feel your body and noticing, you know, it feels weird and uncomfortable if I feel my hips, or, you know, when is the last time that I did something that actually was delightful and pleasurable for me? I had a client this week who, through some conversations, realized that she actually hadn't had any pleasure in 18 months. Now, not just sexual, but any kind of pleasure. Just been a lot going on, a lot of stress. And it was mind-blowing for her to realize how deeply she had missed that and had been so easy to set aside, right? And the reason we started having conversations was around cash flow, because money is energy. It's connected to our sensuality. So there's a big connection between our life force energy, because it's our consciousness that's driving the results in our business. And that consciousness, that energy is cultivated in the lower body, you know, the womb area.
I know that for me, I blossom and glow, and I get so excited when I do my show, whether it's the radio version or the now YouTube channel, because I love having these conversations. I really genuinely believe on such a molecular level that the conversations will resonate with so many people and help inspire and guide them. So for me, it's my God-driven purpose. And it does resonate powerfully, energetically for me personally, as well as an orgasm would, because I float. I love doing this. But it took me a long time to get there. And one of the things that I found was I had to love myself a little bit more. And so now weekly I buy myself flowers. And as simple as that is, it is acknowledgement of a week well done.
Mm-hmm. I
You know,
love that. Yeah, that's so nice. And I also love that you noticed that the energy is the same in doing something that you love in your business, and that sort of, I'll call it, the Disney word for it is like titillation, like,
oh, I love the word titillation. Good girl.
it's like the Disney movie where the little birds, they're making that little noise, and everybody, the rabbits are happy and so are the birds. Like that little,
Yeah.
that little feeling, right? And it's, if you really stop for a minute and feel that, it is a form of sexual energy, right? It's not like we're ripping our clothes off, but it's a spark of life force energy. And I love that you notice that, and that one of the ways that happens for you is in these interviews, because you're right, they are so important to mass consciousness right now.
Yeah. And I think anything that you choose to do, and it took me a long time to get here, so this is old lady speaking. Anything that you choose to do in your life, it needs to be passionate. You need to feel that, because honestly, I feel younger. I feel so
Mm-hmm.
happy. I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think if you run whatever business it is that you wish to run, if you do it with enough passion and verve, it's not even a job anymore.
No.
It's not tedious or painful. You literally get up going, whoo, guess what I get to do today? Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. Yeah, you're right. It is very youthful energy too, right? It really can help you feel like you're staying young. So, yeah.
So tips, tricks, ideas?
So one of the things I'll say is to really understand that you want to connect with your desire, because if we have a desire for something, it means that it is already created in the Akashic records. You're familiar with the Akashic records? Yeah. So I became an Akashic, in addition to being a sex coach and a business coach, I became an Akashic records reader, because they're all connected in that same, place in the body. So when we have this desire, it means that it's already created in the Akashic somewhere. Like we have a desire for something because literally Spirit's trying to give it to us, right? So if you understand what that desire is and you really appreciate the beauty of that, you literally appreciate that into reality. And you can do that in a way that involves your numbers, especially if you're in a business. So understanding what number is it that really measures the growth of your business, your key indicator. So I call it the KISS, the key indicator of strategic success. And embody that, right? There's a big connection between the body and the energy field and our mind and our business, because in the Akashic records also, for entrepreneurs, their business is in the Akashic records, just like our kids. So and creating this alignment with what it is that you want. And I think daily practice is super important too, that it's not a occasional thing that you give some thought or energy to, but really a daily practice of learning to manifest with the energy of the universe in alignment with that. Yeah.
What are your feelings? My stance, and I'm spicy, as we've already known, is I no longer worry about expectation or people's opinions. And I say that in a very strong way, because I think it was an obstacle that would get in my way, and I would stop doing what I love to do because I was always in the breath of somebody else's manifestation for me instead of my manifestation for myself. Does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
What are your thoughts about just being like, okay, this is what I'm passionate about. Here's how I'm going to get there. And I'm just going to be like this because this is my path. And
Right. I would call that saying no to get to yes, because it is a process of setting boundaries. And boundaries are so important because they not only keep things out that aren't serving us, they hold what it is we're focusing on. So like a glass is a boundary for the water, and without the boundary of the glass, the water is all over your counter. So you have to have boundaries, and the more thirsty you are, the bigger drink you want, the bigger glass you've got to have. So it's a process of setting those boundaries and creating the container of what it is you want to hold. And that includes money too. Like we learn how to hold larger and larger amounts of money in our energy field with boundaries that separate us from other people's opinions and things that really don't serve us. Yeah. What do you think that's true for you? Is that how you would see it?
I absolutely do. I think we're definitely on the same path there because it's so important, especially now with social media and all the trolls and I mean, people just want to pick a fight, and it's mind-boggling to me that you have that much energy to waste on such silliness. But to each their own, right? You and I have very different work to do and whatever.
Yes, I've got so much work and so little time, right? So we've got a lot to do here.
Exactly. Akashic Records, I did not know that part about you, so you have an open invite to reschedule yourself for another time so we can talk specifically about that, because I am curious. I don't know much about it.
Oh, that'd be fun, yeah.
Yeah, it would be interesting. We are slowly running out of time because as with every hourglass, it has a divine amount of
does.
And you know how that goes. So give us quickly where you can be found and what's next for you. This is kind of exciting.
You can find me at dawntodd.com, DAWN Todd, 2Ds, dawntodd.com. If you go to the podcast page, there's a bunch of cool videos for y'all. And I am teaching a free deep dive immersion next week. It's called the Venus Experience. It will be taught live through Facebook, so it's a Facebook group that you join. And it's a 5-day class in saying yes to your feminine Venus powers, but maybe more importantly, we're all going to go into the Akashic Records and we're going to clear all of that old beliefs and points of view and contracts and agreements from this life, past lives about sex, money, and power. And those are the things that keep us running in place when we really want to say yes to something, but our hands are already full with old agreements. So I'm really excited about that. It's free, and you can find the link at dawntodd.com podcast, and there's a link to the Facebook group there. So,
what state are you in?
Colorado.
Shut up, Colorado. You're just getting spring.
Barely. Like some of our trees are not even blossomed out yet.
Yeah. That's what we've heard.
Yeah, we've had so much rain and snow, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. 'Tis the season. You got to really appreciate that bitter cold.
And I appreciate your weather too. I'm so grateful to be here. You're just lovely. Thank you so much for having me as a guest. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
I appreciate you too. We still have a couple more minutes, so don't fall asleep on me now. Come on, Dawn.
Okay.
Let's get that energy back up. Zoop.
Well, I don't want to overstay my welcome. You know, I know how that goes.
Not at all. Okay. Right now, I have 165 guests that I'm doing, and I'm doing about 9 interviews a day. So,
holy smokes!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's lovely about it in my world, I get to open up Christmas presents every single day for the next month. Right?
Wow.
One of you has something that's special and glorious about you that will inspire and motivate other people to reach out and do something maybe a little bit different. And so for me, I feel very blessed and very special because each one of you have a little bow. Talk to us a little bit in our time remaining about the Venus experience. You know, I think there's a lot of muddying of Venus and Mars because of the books and, and the jokes and the memes, and then there's divisiveness between genders and blah, blah, blah. So,
well, honestly, this was not a gender division thing. I have a Venus return on Friday, and I'm in my second Saturn return right now. And I just, Venus is a great archetype astrologically of, you know, abundance and sensuality and money and pleasure. And there's 5 active Venus powers that she gifts us with. But it's really hard to pick up a gift when your hands are full with other things. And I feel very, very passionate about helping people release their Akashic records, because that is, I've seen such a huge change in my own life and the lives of my clients when we go in and we dump all that stuff from childhood and past lives. So I wanted to create something that was both an Akashic clearing for a group and a way for people to embrace these powers and say yes to them. So I'm teaching on Facebook Live, and I think you do that all the time. So send me some good luck, because I've not done it before. So it'll be a learning experience.
It'll be learning, but, you know, ignore the messages. If you can have a friend take care of the messages so you can stay on task, then you're fine.
I have a great assistant, so I've got some help with that. And it is a private group, so you have to have an invitation to the group, and I approve everyone who's there. So I'm hoping that it will be an audience who's really interested in that topic and knows up front, hey, this is the topic we're going to be talking about. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's just transparency and authentic stuff. That's great. I want to get into a little bit about emptying your hands of the past stuff. Right? In the Akashic record is a long process, I'm understanding. And you really have to be open and willing to hear how full your hands are on a past level, right? In order to free yourself. Explain.
Yeah, so the Akasha is the place where all the stories of your soul are stored. So every agreement, blood oath, marriage declaration that you've made, and positive things too, are stored there. And very often they can interfere with what we're up to here. I'll give you a quick story if we have a minute. I had a client who came to me. She was probably 60-ish, and she had just gotten laid off from her job. She's very distraught. She'd been in corporate for like 30 years, more than that, 40 years. And we did this Akashic reading, and I had this vision of her as an herbalist in like medieval times, very skilled herbalist, and she had herbalist apprentices. Anyway, the woman, the mistress of the manor, was sick, and she had been making an herb preparation for the mistress of the manor and sending her apprentice to take it to her, but the mistress was not getting better. Finally, she goes to see this lady herself, and she realizes that her apprentice has been poisoning the herbal potion, and while she's there, the lady of the manor dies. And her thought is like, oh my God, I'm going to be hung for this. And she does. She gets hung. And the last thought she had was, I am never messing with herbs again. So that's this. And I tell her this story. I've never met her, still never met her, never seen her. Tell her this because it's over the phone. She bursts into tears and she says, guess what's in my basement? I said, well, I don't know. She said, I have boxes and boxes and boxes of books on herbs.
Wow.
And I'm too scared to read them. And she became an herbalist.
Yeah.
Like just that, like that story, that declaration. And it just was like in this lifetime, it just was like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do it. I said I wasn't, I'm not doing it. Right. So those are the kinds of things where her hands are super full with this agreement, even though she really wants to pick up all this boxes of herb stuff. Right. So And where does that live in our body? In the lower body, right? So then she's free to use her life force energy to create something amazing that she's here to do. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox about that. But yeah, Akashic readings are so fun because we really can understand. And it's like the Google of the spiritual world. So it's not like you have to go in with a specific intention and an understanding that you're looking for something really specific. So like if you were looking for wedding dresses and you started Googling cups of coffee, I mean, it'd take you a long time to buy a wedding dress if all you're coming up with is, Folgers coffee, right? So you have to be clear about what the query is. What's the intention? What are we looking for here? And with that in mind, the filter of how have I said, what agreements do I have in place that keep me from accessing sex, money, and power, and seeing what comes up and then clearing it.
I must have been the Queen of Hearts because
No?
you know where that's going.
Mm-hmm. We should talk about that, girl.
So we have about 4 minutes, and I want to get back to the business aspect of this because, and again, you have an open invite to reschedule yourself for another time.
Thank you. That'd be so fun. I love talking about that. It's a delightful conversation. Yeah.
We have a lot to talk about. The idea of empowering yourself to do what it makes you most passionate is kind of terrifying for a lot of people. Not a gender specific statement, just terrifying for a lot of people. Do you have a 101, beginners 101, what you can start doing now until your Facebook class or until they get to listen to your podcast, to just start little baby steps?
I would suggest that you think about the last time that you were so free and happy, and remember what that was like, because that is your natural state. And so much conditioning and parenting and societal pressure takes that away from us, and we make it not okay to feel good. And it might be as simple as every time I ride my bike down a hill, I remember what it's like to be 6 years old, right? What I want you to do is get in touch with that, because if you can't even feel that sensation, it's really hard to say yes to your deepest desires, because you've turned off all of your turn signals that take you there, right? So understanding, and I'm not just talking about like, oh, that was a great orgasm or that was a great dinner, right? I'm talking about that thing that is like in the moment it takes your breath away, right? Maybe it's your grandkids or your children or the birds in your backyard. Oh my God, right? The art of savoring a moment is what brings us in touch with our soul in a huge way. And it's a practice for sure that's educated out of us. So do you think that's true for you? Like if you...
I think you're absolutely right, 100%. But I also think that in order to get to that place, you have to stop filling your time with stuff. We have become a society that's just noise ridden, and I think it's so toxic and so spiritually deadly. And
I agree.
I think that people are reactive rather than proactive. We're just hit every time we turn. I can't even pump gas down here without having some TV blaring about some sandwich that I can't even eat anyway. I'm a celiac. Why do I care? So now I'm getting annoyed. So now I'm staying in the state of annoyed as I'm filling up my gas, and then somebody tries to cut me off the road, and then I'm annoyed with that. So what I've noticed in this human adventure that I'm having is that we stay in a perpetual constant state of fight or flight.
I would so agree with that. There's so many notifications going off on your phone, you know, every time someone sends you an email or likes a post, you know, this state of notification and constant fight or flight completely disconnects us from our intuition. So yeah, I think we really have to manage that and try to manage that without substances. And that takes some discipline, sort of like disciplining your kids or your puppy. You know, you have to give yourself a minute. I'll tell you what I'm really loving right now is a style of music called lo-fi music.
Yes, we listen to that
Yes.
all the time. My daughter, I
Oh,
like
yeah.
Parisian cafe music. When I worked down in New
Yeah.
York, I love Parisian cafe music, so she always put the lo-fi music. That's so funny. Yeah, we.
Oh my gosh, it's so amazing for what it does for my brain waves. It just, you know, so I live in Colorado, right? So of course, cannabis is legal here. So it's, oh, we can use cannabis like we'd have a glass of wine here. So lo-fi music will chill me out in the same way that smoking a bowl will. And
No.
I really appreciate that. And it's, of course, legal everywhere. And it's great for your brain. I'm really loving this as a tool because that's the kind of frequency we need to tap into because it lets us listen to ourselves, you know?
If you like lo-fi, you'd really like this little funky monk. He does this amazing like lo-fi but techno mix.
Mhm.
Remind me and I'll send you the link because I've
Okay.
been grooving on him. I'm like, yeah, man, that's it. That's it right there.
Well, you know what? It's the vibration. Everything is communicated through vibration. And that's why I love doing podcasts and I'm so passionate about this is because we are putting this vibration into the universe forever, right? It impacts so deeply because it is a vibration. I cannot stress how important I think these podcasts are. What an amazing source for people to listen to. And you have such a great library of people. Like, if people did nothing but listen to your podcast all day, that would shift their frequency,
They would
right?
laugh a
So
lot.
so much better than social media where it's just this mind-numbing scroll, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Taco Bell of our minds. I don't
Like
know.
the Taco Bell of the mind, right? Oh
Man.
my goodness, yeah.
I don't even know. I'm good. I like my camping. I'm getting ready to gear up to drive up to New Hampshire and spend a week up there and do some camping, hang out with some horses,
Mm-hmm.
travel through the United States. My gypsy spirit has blossomed. It was so suffocating for so long. And now that I'm single and happy and all of that
Mm-hmm.
stuff, I get to do the things that make me happy and passionate. And this podcast, on top of the traveling, on top of the writing, and
Mm-hmm.
all 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 in combination, has really hit that sweet spot of soul juice.
Mm-hmm. I did a 60-day road trip a couple years ago where I packed my bike and my paddle boards and um, left everybody at home and went to the Gulf and paddleboarded, and then I drove up the East Coast and ended up in Boston, and yeah, it was lovely. Just really transformational to travel by yourself like that and let everyone else have their drama, have whatever's going on with them, right?
Yeah, you have to take. I'm a true believer, and I've learned the hard way that you have to take that time. There's no such thing as a lazy day. If you genuinely feel like you want to lay in bed for a couple of hours playing Scrabble and scrolling through your mind-numbing Facebook, there's a
Mm-hmm.
reason for the season. You need that time out, and I think it's okay. And forgive yourself. Let it go.
Right,
Those
right.
expectations are man-made, and they don't have a place anywhere. I'm
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal. I'm a huge believer that all we are is a sack of water. We're
Mm-hmm.
floating on this huge molten lava rock. There's no steering wheel. We're going through infinity. And yet we think we have control.
Right.
And when you really sit with that thought of how real that is, girl, lay in bed and play Scrabble. Who cares? Right? Like, if that's really what you need to do for that moment, do it. If you need to travel, travel. If you need to go and join the kickboxing class. So healthy. Do it.
Right, right. Yeah. It's, I think we just don't give ourselves permission to follow that impulse. And that is a form of following our desire, right? Because it's a seed that gets planted that leads us to something greater. Right?
We are farmers. Dun, 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 dun. All right, Dawn, I've got to roll to the next guest, but you have the link. If you don't, email me and I'll try to re-email you the link sometime today so that we can get back together, because I enjoyed
would
my
love that.
time. I enjoy the fact that you were able to share such a beautiful transitional piece of femininity and business, which we really didn't get into, but that's how conversations go.
That's how conversations go. Thank you so much. I hope you have an awesome day. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
You're watching Living and Thriving with Rustie. I'm Rustie, and I get to do this. I get to do this. It's so exciting. I love it. Dawn is great. She's out of Colorado. And what? Business and sex? There can actually be something there that's not just videos at the adult store. It's the energy. The energy, the same way you feel totally inhibited or not inhibited whatsoever, and you're free to do what makes you happy and passionate and fiery and excited. Yeah, I like this. We'll have to delve in deeper next time. Until then, know that you're beautiful, know that you're loved, do something kind for somebody else. It's so important. And that one small little kind thing that you're going to do, should do, coulda, shoulda, woulda, you know me, will actually change the trajectory of somebody's life. You can actually change somebody's life by just doing an anonymous cup of coffee or a love letter of, you're so beautiful today, thanks for being my friend, or, you know, something kind, maybe buying somebody's lunch, whole bunch of thank you cards, the nursing homes. I don't know, I talk about this all the time. What are you guys doing? You got to email me or send comments below and let me know the acts of kindness that you're doing, because it does change the trajectory, I can never say that word, of somebody's life quite a lot. All right, until next time.